other dimensions, as I say, thousands of years ago, in the time of ancient Samaria, they believed that already that there were other dimensions in existence. And many, of course, even in that time, refused to accept the possibility because there was one world that God created, we are in it, you know, and there's nothing beyond that, you know. And I tend to think that thousands of years ago, before the first sea creatures emerged, grew legs and developed lungs, that there already perhaps existed a human intelligence, and it developed at a very, very fast rate, perhaps much faster than what we call human intelligence. And we're just catching up to that fact, you know. That we're actually on the tail end of it. And going even further, these beings discovered that there was a way of manipulating the electromagnetic energy and be able to control it, so because all it seems to separate us from one dimension to another, and there may be as many as 5 or 6 dimensions for all we may know, that they may be able to lower the vibratory rate or raise the vibratory rate in order to enter other dimensions, you know.
Yep.
It's very possible. Just as an aside, when I get interested in the dimensions and the introduction of vibratory rates as separating the dimensions, I started studying about out-of-the-body experiences. And I discovered that this one particular book, I think his name is Robert Brown, and he wrote a book called Out of the Body Experiences, or Out of the Body Journeys. And I was curious enough about the subject to actually buy the book and read it. And I became fascinated by the realistic possibilities that he outlined in the book. And he told of that it takes a lot, unless it naturally occurs to some people, which is possible, that you can, by use of study, intense study, achieve the same thing. So that's where I started my end of it, with the intense study. And believe me, it was. And it didn't quite happen, the out-of-body experience, the way I anticipated it would. The the main thing is, if you're going to practice it, you must do it in a place where you will be undisturbed for long periods of time, and you must have absolute quiet, no distraction whatsoever. The best time for me is when I went to bed at night and I was lying in bed and just concentrating on certain aspects of it, and those being the use of imagination, which is very, very important. It's not imagination where you con yourself into believing such and such a thing, but imagination to control the possibilities of what could happen. And the more you concentrate on those possibilities, the greater your chances are of succeeding. And things especially like perhaps you're in a giant vat of warm water, and the water is being funneled in, and as the water rises close to the top of this large container, there's a hole, and as soon as the water reaches that hole, of course, it flows through. So you have to imagine yourself as an ethereal sort of being who is getting closer and closer to that hole. And you funnel through, and on the other side would be another dimension. Another simpler way of looking at it would be if you've been watching TV all your life and all you ever got was, say, hypothetically, Channel 30. Every time you turn on the TV, there's Channel 30. It's always there, always will be there. But what if somehow, unbeknownst to you, someone changes the channel setting and you turn this set on, and all of a sudden it's Channel 3 or Channel 8, and you're completely unprepared for it, but there it is, and there's no mistaking it. You're seeing a different realm, a different view of life through another channel. You know, it's almost simplistic, but it is there. It is that one possibility. Or if you're going up an elevator in a strange building that you've never been to before, but you know when you get to a certain floor with absolute certainty that on that floor you're going to find a certain merchandise or products. Say it's floor 11, and by mistake another floor is punched in. The doors open, you're pushed out by a crowd of people, and it's not what you expect. It's different, totally different atmosphere. It is, in effect, a different environment. It is a different experience, a different dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
But it is something that does happen.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting concept for sure. Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
And the one time I did experience an out-of-the-body experience, and that was after months, and I mean months of trying. I woke up one night and two things. I had seen myself lying in bed next to my wife in the darkness. Yeah, I knew it was me. I knew the room. And yet, that wasn't me in the bed. That was something in the bed. It wasn't me. It was almost like a mannequin that looked a lot like me. And there I was, slowly moving away from it. And the odd thing was that while all this was happening, I felt this electricity. I could, for lack of a better word, and it was like a cone of electricity coming in waves, going from head to toe and back and forth at so many kilocycles per second, and it was unmistakable. And you felt like you were being electrocuted, but it wasn't that sharp a sensation. It was almost a very gentle weaving sort of effect. And I remember getting excited by the fact that there I was floating in the dark, looking down and seeing myself and my wife. And I got excited, of course. And I remember yelling to my wife, hey, look at me. Look, I'm floating, you know. And I get all excited, you know. And then everything went black. And I woke up the next morning, and the first thing that hit my mind was, you know, you did it. You did it. It wasn't the way you thought it was, but you actually did it. And I got hold of yet another book on the subject, and it went into even more detail about the technical end of it. And it said when you are in close proximity to the physical body, once you have lifted away from it, the worst thing you could do is to become excited. Because as soon as you do that, you're going to break that. Imagine it as a umbilical cord, a electrical umbilical cord. You're going to break that, and you're going to experience darkness. And it's exactly what happened. Well, I didn't expect to happen, but it did just like that.
Yeah. That's pretty fascinating. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and it sounds very, very weird and off the wall to the average person,
Yeah, no, I don't think so, but
and yet I consider myself an average human being. You know, with my average prejudices and doubts. And there it was, it happened.